The Tommy Schnermecker Show on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Good morning. We're talking about the Angry Phone movement, a terrific film, a DVD, Angry Phone, The Struggle for Canada in Quebec, done by...
Good morning, Tommy.
You know, there's so many memories that come back when I see Angry Phone. We're looking at the history of two referendums, the language laws, the language police, the exodus from Quebec, the Clarity Bill. It's quite something. What made you decide to put this all together?
It's a very big question. I'll try to summarize it really quickly. I guess being involved in politics, getting to know all the large players in this English rights movement or this Canadian rights movement at the time, interested in film as a kid and in university, I just mixed two passions together. I go, wouldn't it be great to come up with a film that expressed, at the time, I guess, or even today, our point of view. I mean, for 30 years, we've heard this sort of Quebec nationalist side in the press and the media. Every time you turn on the TV, you hear this distorted truth. And I go, wouldn't it be great to have a film presenting our side of the story, or the Canadian side of the story in the province of Quebec?
Now, you were very involved in this at the time, and I remember myself at the time as a talk show host in 1994, before the referendum, when Parizeau was elected. During the referendum itself, the year after, it was the most incredible issue. Everyone thought the Federalist side was prepared, that they had a plan. They're going to come up with the plan. They didn't have it yet. They're going to come up with the plan later. They're going to wait till Parizeau calls a referendum. Then they're going to wait for the question. And there was no plan. And there was a sense at the time, Jimmy, and correct me if I'm wrong, of concern and worry every day, every morning when people woke up. They wanted to find out what was going on. Was their world safe? Because it wasn't. In fact, it wasn't. They didn't know what country they'd wake up in. They didn't know if there'd be unilateral declarations of independence. What has changed so drastically from that time to now?
Oh, that's a very good question, Tommy, but I'd like to start off more at the beginning of
Sure,
things,
go ahead.
Right? This film is an independent documentary. I self-financed this because I didn't want anybody telling me what I can and cannot say. It's about the brave people who challenged the Quebec language laws, like you said, and the two referendums. This movie is not a movie to start a new revolution. It's just a history of I would say it's two parts. Part one would be the language laws and the buildup, the chronological buildup, and part two would be the angry revolution. Like we had the Quiet Revolution in the 60s. Well, this is the angry revolution. Exactly what you said. Our world is not safe anymore. Is Quebec going to be Canada? Why are my children leaving this province? Why are so many people leaving this province? This is what the film was. It's a piece of history, just like when you turn on the History Channel and you see the Quiet Revolution or a story about Trudeau. Well, this is a piece of the English-speaking or the Canadians living in Quebec. This is their history that I kind of was always interested in, and I thought, this is the world that I saw at the time. Like 94, 95, 96, 97, being an activist and actually being a citizen of Canada living in the province of Quebec.
I mean, do you remember there's the massive rally at the time, if it was going to help the yes side or the no side, the crowd estimates. I mean, people were involved in it at the time, I recall, on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Personally involved on a daily basis, and was fascinating for me, and I think you really cover it in the film, is that it was not only people who were fascinated by politics who paid attention. People who had absolutely nothing to do with politics, who didn't know anything about politics, they also got involved as it got closer and closer, and as the polls showed that we were heading closer and closer to independence, as it looked like the yes side was going to win at one point.
That's right. That's it. You know, this is how it all, I can remember it started in, I was at some rally with my wife and I was filming it. Like I always bring a video camera everywhere I go. And I'm looking at these crowds and how we were boycotting whatever store it was at the time. And I go, I turned to my wife, I go, you know, this is This is a piece of history we're going to tell our children about. You couldn't imagine the thousands of people outside boycotting. We just wanted what the law permitted. It wasn't like we were asking to abolish French.
You're right. It wasn't even to change the law.
No,
absolutely. To allow what was permitted.
And Galganov says it best in the film. He said there was a conspiracy. The liberal government said, look, we'll pass Bill 86, which will allow some English, but at the same time, you shouldn't use it.
Right. We're continuing.
The Tommy Schnurmacher Show on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Good morning. We're talking about the angryphone movement. The term angryphone was a pretty derisive term, but a lot of people used it.
I think it started off as it was actually someone in the movement who actually coined it, the angryphone movement. I believe it was Carlos Rodin who actually coined it in the Gazette. And it was just used as a description at the time. But then, of course, the media took that word and used it as more of like someone who's an extremist, someone who's maybe violent tendencies, which the fact is an angryphone is somebody who's actually civilized, a professional.
But it's amazing at the time that it was considered extremist if you wanted people to abide by the law.
That's right.
That was considered to be an extremist point of view.
It's just nuts. Yeah. I think part of the reason why the angryphone movement existed was not all the media, but most of the media was against the English media was actually against the English-speaking community in a way, right? And that's the frustration when you know that your own outlets, your own media outlets aren't on your side, then you tend to be a little more upset.
Well, it also, it depended on the degree of it and the whole issue of signs, how that has changed over the years. And for the new generation, the people they call the children of Bill 101, Anglophones who are flawlessly bilingual. There was a time when Anglophone parents didn't want their kids to go to French school. Now they line up. They are allowed to send their kids to English school. They're the only ones who are. Yeah. They line up overnight to make sure their kids are in French immersion. Not because of any law. There's no law forcing them to do that at all. Yeah. Right? They do that. So, that shows the drastic change in attitudes in a very short period of time. We're going to continue our discussion. We'll talk about the Clarity Bill, the father of the Clarity Bill, now the leader of the Federal Liberal Party. Good morning. Names like Bill Johnson, Brent Tyre, Howard Galganov, Richard Lahire, the former PQ cabinet minister, Keith Henderson, who used to be the leader of the Equality Party, some of the people in this documentary, Angryphone, the struggle for Canada in Quebec. Do you remember at the time what a major change there was at that discussion at Moot Court, the discussion about the Clarity Bill? And, well, it wasn't the Clarity Bill at the time. Jean Chrétien had seen that live, and he's the one who discussed it with Jean Chrétien. They came up with the Clarity Bill, even though very few people know this. Stephen Harper had come up with it for the Reform Party way back when, 20 conditions of separation.
And a lot of people don't know this either, but it was actually the Equality Party and their special committee for Canadian Unity who actually were lobbying the Reform Party to pass or to pass a policy in regards to a clarity.
When I remember when I was doing talk radio at the time, and I got the Reform Party, the 20 conditions, the 20 conditions for Quebec separation, and I didn't say to the audience at the time what it was. I said, what do you think of this? And I read the 20 conditions for Quebec separation. Is this a good idea or not? All the people who called in at the time thought it was a fantastic idea. They loved it. And I said, oh, well, it's the 20 conditions put out by the Reform Party. Then they all hated it. The exact same conditions. And, of course, it was ignored. No one paid attention. The Reform Party got nowhere. And when it was introduced as the Clarity Bill, and that was also amazing. They thought there'd be, I remember having a bet with someone that they literally thought that there'd be revolution on the streets in Quebec in response to the Clarity Bill.
I remember Jean-Christophe.
That whole issue at the time. And again, it tells you how wrong the political pundits can be. There was no backlash in Quebec about it whatsoever because everybody in Quebec was also for clarity. There was nothing wrong with clarity.
That's right.
And they didn't think there was any, even though the separatist elite thought so. What do you think of the fact, we used to be so involved and so freaked out at the PQ and the separatist party. Now we have them in third place, and they're ashamed to talk about their option, and they're afraid to talk about a referendum. What do you think has happened in the interim?
Yeah, great. I think that's wonderful, and I hope the PQ disappear on a personal note, but I think everything goes in cycles, and it's sometimes it's based on economy, and as you can see, economies go like we're not actually for Montreal, where we're doing pretty well as an economy right now, not too bad, but if the economy starts dropping and there's more unemployment and less people are working, people are willing to take more chances and they're looking for quick solutions, and that just might bring back the PQ. I'm not trying to alarm everybody here. I'm just saying that's just the way it is in the world.
Well, that's true, but I don't think they get a sense of it right now. I mean, when they have their caucus meetings, when they talk about it, they say, listen, we can't keep pushing this stuff because nobody wants it. And support for sovereignty keeps going lower and lower and lower. They don't push it. They don't promote it. When that Lucien Bouchard, I remember when they used to push him saying, you don't know enough about it, one day he decided that to make them feel a little happier, he'd print up 50,000 pamphlets. So, I mean, they haven't done anything about it. You're right. It doesn't mean that it can never, ever come back, but it's certainly dormant for now. Anyway, your film is very, very interesting, certainly a fascinating part of history, and a lot of people have forgotten a lot of it. Well worth checking out. Angryphone, The Struggle for Canada in Quebec, the film available online at angryphone.